Hi, welcome to freshmind.com. My name is Eric, and this is part 2 of our Valentine's heart. We need to UV map and apply a texture. So let's start off by looking at the UVs. I'm just going to select the heart. I'm going to make sure I'm in the polygon menu set. I'm going to go to the Edit UVs menu, down to UV Texture Editor. When it opens up, you'll see this grid, and in the upper right hand quadrant is where our texture is. Right now it's got a gray Lambert. That's why this square up here is gray. It's because we have a gray Lambert material applied to it. Alright, our UVs, now these are not, like I'm just going to right click, select UV, and I'm just going to marquee and drag around all these. You'll see these green points. Those are not vertices. Those are UVs. It's different. We can move these around. So if I grab one of these, I can move it around, and it does not change the shape of my heart. So just keep in mind that anytime you're working with UVs, it's not vertices. It's just telling Maya how we want our texture to be applied to our object. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select our heart in object mode, and then let me go ahead and X out of that. I'm going to go up to the Create UVs menu, Planner Mapping, Options box. Let's see, Edit, Reset Settings. Alright, the Z handle is going through the face of our heart. So I want to project this planner mapping. I want to project it in the Z-axis. So I'm going to select Z-axis and click Project. Alright, I'm spending more time on the texturing part of this because that's usually where most people need help the most rather than the modeling stage. Alright, the next, to see a little bit better, we're going to apply a checkerboard pattern. Let's go ahead and look at our UVs one more time. I'm going to open up the UV texture editor again. And you can see our UVs look a lot better. It actually looks like a heart now. And it looks like our UVs in the back, I made a change that I thought reflected on both the back and the front, but it looks like, according to UVs, it's not quite the same. But that's okay. Alright, so that's good. It's not quite the same shape as our heart. If you look over here on the left and the right, this one looks more stretched out up and down, where this one on the left looks more stretched out left and right. So what we could do is we could right click, select UV, we can marquee drag around all of our UVs, and we can use our scale tool and we can scale this and make it look just like it is on the left. So that way our texture will look a little better. Okay, so let's go ahead and apply a checkerboard pattern to this. I'm going to go to Windows, Rendering Editors, over to Hypershade. And let me just maximize this screen. Alright, over here on the left, I'm going to click on Lambert. So right there, it puts a Lambert down here in the work area. And we're going to use a file. I'm going to minimize everything. On my desktop, there is a checkerboard pattern. It's just a picture that I downloaded, or not downloaded, but saved from the internet. You can find plenty of them, so if you do a Google search for, I guess, a checkerboard texture or a checkerboard pattern, you should find plenty to choose from. I'm going to open up my project folder, and there's the source images folder. If I open it up, you'll see the heart reference that we placed in there. I'm also going to place this checkerboard pattern in there as well. So let me go back into Maya. I'm going to open up the Hypershade back again. Alright, here's our Lambert. Over here on the left hand side, underneath the 2D textures, you'll see a file node. I'm going to click that, and it puts a file down here. And it also puts a texture placement node as well. Okay, now we just need to attach this file node to our Lambert. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to middle mouse drag the file node over to the Lambert, and then I'm going to let go of my middle mouse button. This menu pops up. I'm going to click on Color, because we're going to use that checkerboard pattern for the color of our Lambert. Alright, let me make this window a little smaller so you can see the attribute editor. Okay, you can maneuver in these the same way you maneuver in a view panel. You can pan and you can zoom in and out. You can't rotate though, because it's only a 2D space, not a 3D space. If I double click this Lambert material, it will open up the attributes for it. If I double click this file node, it will open up the attributes for that. Alright, so I'm going to double click the Lambert. Now you can see the attributes for a Lambert. There is the color, and if you look the far right of the color, you'll see that it's not a checkerboard box anymore. It has like a a black square with a black arrow going into it. If I click on the file or double click on it, it opens up the attributes for that file node. And you can see right here, kind of in the middle, there is an image name, which is empty, with a button to the far right. That I'm going to click on that button that has the folder. It's going to allow me, well actually it automatically goes to the source images folder. And that's why I put our checkerboard pattern in there. If we hadn't put it in there, then we could go to our desktop and get it from there. Alright, I'm going to select my checkerboard pattern, click open, and now you can see our Lambert has a checkerboard pattern on there. And basically it's that file, and we're using that checkerboard pattern as the color. Okay, if we go here, if we double click on our Lambert down here in the work area, we look at the attributes for it, where the color is, we're going to click on that box at the far right. It takes us to the that file node. So these buttons right here just go back and forth. That's all it is. So just kind of wanted to get you familiarized with how all this works and how it's all connected. But it's just pretty easy just to select it in your work area down here. And if you don't have it in the work area, like let's say we close this out and we open up our Hypershade again. Let me Windows, Rendering Editors, Hypershade. It's not down in the work area anymore, but we can go up here, we can click on our Lambert 2, and right above you'll see three kind of buttons up here. And one's got input connections, this is input and output connections, and this is output connections. So if we click this middle one, it'll show us all the connections for that Lambert. And there it is, right down in our work area again. There's our file node, and there's our Lambert. And it's also showing the out connection. Alright, so once that's done, we just need to apply this texture to our object. So let's select our heart, and I'm just going to right click on our Lambert, and I'm going to select Assign Material to Selection, and it puts it on there. You can also just middle mouse drag it and then drop it right on your object. So either way, and you can do it from up here too in this upper part. You can middle mouse drag it and drop it down there. Okay, we can't see it, so what we need to do is we need to activate our textures. So I'm just going to make sure I've got this view panel selected. Just click in there and then press number 6 on your keyboard, and there we go. So now we've got our texture on there. You can see how it's stretched on the sides. We're going to fix that really easily. The whole front looks great now because we did that planar mapping. So this checkerboard looks really great on the front. There's no stretching, so we know that if we create a texture for this, it's going to look really good. The only place it's not going to look good is around the edges. Alright, we can fix that really quick. Let's do that. Let's open up our UV texture editor. Alright, now it's kind of hard to see our UVs because our checkerboard pattern is so bright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to Image, Display Image. Right underneath it you'll see Dim Image. If I click that, it dims the image and we can see our UVs a lot better. You can also, right up here, there's this your color and your alpha. You can just turn this alpha on, and now it just gets rid of that altogether, so it makes it even more easier to see. And if you wanted to even go further than that, you could turn the grid off. So I'm going to do one more thing. Right up here there's a button that toggles the shaded mode. So if we click that, right now it looks purple. That's because blue represents the UVs are faced in the right way. Red refers to UVs that are backwards. So red and blue together creates purple. So we know that something's backwards, and if we flip this around to the back side, if you look at our texture, the F and the 7 is backwards. So the letters and numbers are backwards. So it's kind of helpful to have this shaded mode turned on. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to have some writing on the back side and writing on the front side, but we're going to have different writing. So we need to separate the back from the front and have them like side by side or above each other. That way when we go into some photo editing software like GIMP or Photoshop, we can write text on the front and on the back, and we can have it all on one texture instead of having to create two different textures. Alright, the way we're going to do this is I'm going to go to Edge Select Mode. I'm going to select this edge all the way around, just like that. Over here in the UV Texture Editor, Polygon menu, down to Cut UV Edges. Just going to click that, and now it just cut a seam all the way around. Okay, I'm going to go back to Object Mode. Over here in my UV Texture Editor, I'm going to right click, select UVs, so I can select UVs, but this time I'm not going to marquee drag around anything. I'm just going to just click one time anywhere. So I'm going to click right here where these lines meet. Let me switch to the Move tool. And you can see we've got one UV selected. Now I'm going to press and hold down the Control button, press and hold down the right mouse button, and now I can select to shell. And that's going to select the whole shell, and it looks like that's the back. So if we look, you can see how the back texture is moving. So that's the back of our heart. And these are the front of our heart. So I can select all of these, or you can just select one, Control, right mouse, and then click on to shell. And there's the front. Alright, you can see the back is backwards because it's shaded red. So I'm just going to select all of those, polygons, flip. There we go. So everything's the right way. If I rotate this around, you'll see that our letters and numbers are flipped around the right way. Alright, let's fix this stretching on the sides. I already said that the UVs, everything in the middle looks great. The only thing that really needs to be worked on is the outside edge. So I'm going to make sure I got UVs. I'm going to select everything on this front. This is the front. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to press and hold down the Control button. And then I'm just going to deselect all these outwards ones. So I'm just holding down the Control button and then just marquee dragging around these on the outside, or you can just click them. Either way. Whoops. Alright, so now the only UVs I have selected are all the ones in the middle. Well, now that I have all the ones in the middle selected, but none of the ones on the outside, I'm going to go to the polygon menu, down to Unfold, and I'm going to click on the options box. Edit, Reset Settings. Right down in this section, there's a pinning section, and there's an option that says Pin UVs. We want that checked. And then there's Pin Selected and Pin Unselected UVs. Right now, I want all these UVs that I have selected, I don't want them to move. I want them to stay exactly as they are. So over here in this Unfold Options, I'm going to select Pin Selected UVs. So all the UVs I have selected, it's like pinning them to a wall, like if you were to pin a sheet of paper to a wall. So now they're not going to move at all. The only thing that's going to be adjusted are the ones that are not selected. So now I'm going to click on Apply and Close. And it did a little bit, not a whole lot, but you can see how this outside border got a little bigger. And if you look at our texture now, all our squares look the same. It looks much, much better. So that front side is now done. There's nothing else we need to do the front side. Let's do the same thing on the bottom. I'm going to select all the UVs. I'm going to press and hold down the Control button and just deselect, or just click on all these on the UVs on the outside, which deselects them. To me, it's just easier just to kind of marquee drag around them. And once I have all those deselected, the only thing I have selected are the middle ones. I got a couple still selected over here. There we go. I'm going to go to Polygons, Unfold, Options box, make sure it's still selected on Pin Selected UVs, Apply and Close. So now the back is done. So everything is done now. Alright, so we've got two sides of our heart. Now if we just wanted, this was all just going to be like a single texture where the front was not going to be different than the back, then we could actually sew these two back together. But since we're going to have separate writing on the front and back, I'm keeping these separate. Alright, let's get these close together, like really close, something like this. There we go. And I'm going to select both of these. I'm going to scale these down. And I want these to fit inside this upper box. But I want to use as much as that upper box as I can. There we go. But I don't want my UVs to go outside. I want my UVs to stay inside this square. So when we create a texture, that's where our texture is going to be. And we want our heart to be right inside of our texture. Okay, now we need to make sure our heart is selected in object mode. Before I do anything else, though, let's go ahead and do a save as. File, save scene as, and this is going to be Happy Valentine's _2, the second stage of our Valentine's. So click on save. That way if we mess anything up, we don't have to redo all this all over again. Okay, so now we've got our UVs all laid out and done just right. Everything looks great. So we're going to go to polygons. Now you got to make sure you're in object mode. polygons, UV snapshot. I'm going to browse and put this, actually I'll just leave it where it is. If you look, you can see where it's going. It's going in my Happy Valentine's project folder into a subfolder called images. We've put everything else in source images. Well, this is going to go into images. So that's fine. I'll just leave it there, so cancel. Size, I'll make this a bigger size. So let's say 1024 by 1024. I'm going to turn my anti-aliasing off. If you turn it on, then these lines will just be a little smoother. That's all that anti-aliasing does. So if your lines look a little too jaggedy, depending on what your texture mapping, then you can turn this anti-aliasing on and it will make your lines look smoother and less jaggedy. Okay, that's it. Now click OK. There we go. Now if you had gotten an error message, it probably just means that your object is not selected in object mode. You might be in vertex select mode or UV selected or edges or something like that. So just make sure it's selected in object mode. All right, we can close this out. Let's go to our desktop, open up our project folder, and there's it was either images or image. Images, there it is. There's our UVs. All right. Now we had our UV selected as white in that options box, so we can't really see our UVs now until we get like a dark background to it. I saved it as a PNG file because PNG holds transparency.